Before I get into this video, just remember to follow me on Twitter. People keep telling me I should plug my Twitter more, so yeah, check that out, at Jackson Kruger. The link is in the description, but anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. Okay, so quarterback tier list. These should be fun. I always love stuff like this, but first I have to explain how I came up with this idea in the first place. So there's this YouTube channel called That Franchise Guy who I recently just discovered, and I have to say the guy's incredible. Marcus is his name, so everyone go over and subscribe to him, watch his videos. It's a lot of fun to watch. He's not afraid to give out a controversial opinion, and you know how much I love that kind of stuff, and he's really smart. So this isn't paid. He didn't tell me to do this. This is basically the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he made a video about like quarterback tier lists, and I was like, oh, that's a fun idea. I should do something like that. But I wanted to, give him his due and make sure I'm, being clear of where I came up with the idea. And it was his idea. I'm kind of just, using it and making it my own. Okay, so my first tier is, and I'm going to go from worst to best. So first tier is the probably not a star, but I want to see more tier. And while I am doing worst to best, it's going to be a little bit different because there's some guys who are like potentially, maybe you could say that they're better like for the next 10 years, but I'm really just talking about for this next season. So like, for example, I would take Zach Wilson over Jimmy Garoppolo, but in terms of if I was building a franchise, but for one season, I would take Jimmy Garoppolo over Zach Wilson. So that's how it works. Anyways, the guys on this tier, Drew Lock, Taylor Heinicke, PJ Walker, Trace McSorley, and Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger is the one guy I think a lot of people wouldn't have on this list altogether. Don't even think about him. I like Sam Ehlinger. I would like to see him, I'd like to see all these guys have like a full season starting, but I also acknowledge if I did see that, they probably wouldn't end up being very good. Drew Lock, I still have in this tier. I think that there is maybe some potential. The one hope I have with Drew Lock is there is kind of a belief among some analytic communities that they say that, how you perform under pressure is in large part luck. You control it to some degree, but there's a big luck component, and he was horrible under pressure, which probably means that he's not very good at it, but also maybe he got lucky on top of that. So the hope, I would assume, is that maybe he can, maybe that the luck will kind of go back and the law of averages means he'll be a little better. So that's maybe the hope of him. And again, Heinicke, we've only seen a little bit of. Walker, we've only seen a little bit of. And McSorley, we've only seen a little bit of. So hopefully we could potentially see more of them. But again, if we saw a full season of either of those guys, it probably wouldn't work out. So that's why I have them in this tier. We then have the okay backup tier. This is, the way I view it is, if your quarterback goes down for 4 games, can they go 2-2 if you have like a playoff roster? These are all the guys who, in my opinion, could. Now, they wouldn't necessarily be like spectacular. This is, Chad Henne, Mason Rudolph, Mike Glennon, Colt McCoy, Chase Daniel, and Blaine Gabbert. All of these guys, that's kind of where I feel like they're at. Next, we have the good backup tier. So the difference between this one and the last one is these guys, if your starting quarterback goes down and these guys are there, you feel like you can be okay. And like, let's say you were going into the playoffs and now you have to start one of these guys. You wouldn't say, oh, it's over. You'd say, well, that sucks, but at least there is a chance. So, guys like Andy Dalton, Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor. I have Sam Darnold here. Some people might have him a little bit higher, but I just can't justify that after what I saw from him last season. I just can't. Jacoby Brissett, Case Keenum, Marcus Mariota, Gardner Minshew, Taysom Hill, Mitchell Trubisky I also have here. Again, some people could argue there's maybe like some potential. Some people might say he's sort of the probably not a star, but I want to see more tier. To me, this feels right. And Joe Flacco also, some people might say is in the okay backup tier. I think he's a good backup. Again, he outperformed Sam Darnold last year in the same system. So I get it's not a 1-for-1, but still, I thought Flacco was not a complete mess when he was with Denver. Again, he's not someone I'd want as a starter, but I think he's a good backup. And now we have the potential tier. What this tier means is that the chances are this will be a learning year for everyone here, if they even get on the field. But potentially, there is the hope that if they were to play, they could be like an MVP candidate type guy. The reality is they probably wouldn't and probably would take some time to learn. So, it's all going to be young guys, really first or second year players. So Jalen Hurts, and then, all 5 of the rookies. You have Trevor Wilson, combined in names. You have Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones. I do have Daniel Jones in this tier. I thought about putting him in the good backup, but I still feel like I'll give him one more year. There still is some hope. He has shown some flashes in his 2-year career, just not enough, and he's turned the ball over too much. You have Tua, who's kind of right on that line of like, I don't think you should give up on him yet, but if he has another year like that, it might be time to give up on him. Jordan Love, we haven't seen at all, but again, kind of in that rookie tier, along with Kellen Mond, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields, all guys who, again, if they got thrown into the fire, I don't think it's rare for a rookie quarterback to do good in general. Like, as awesome as Justin Herbert was last year, he still ended up like 13th in the NFL and as a rookie. So it's hard to get too hyped up on them. But again, for the future, that's what you're hoping for. So like I said, a lot of these guys, if I was saying what guy do I want to build a team around, I pick a lot of these guys before a lot of the guys ahead of them, but for next year, I don't do that. Then we have the boom or bust tier. These are guys that I could see being a top 10 quarterback, could see being, a bad quarterback altogether. So Carson Wentz, Jimmy G, Jared Goff, Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Jameis Winston. I mean, Fitzpatrick and Winston both very much fit the boomer bust tier. Some of these other guys are boomer bust for different reasons, like for Goff, how well will he be in a different scheme? He's been very good in the past. He was not great last year. He just wasn't. Jimmy Garoppolo, another guy where kind of the boomer bust with him is the injury concern. I do feel like there are some other issues that he doesn't get talked about a ton with him. He isn't the most accurate passer out there, and probably the bigger concern I would say is that he will make the occasional just dumb decision even when he's healthy. Carson Wentz, he'll definitely make the dumb decision. Great arm though, so there's that boom or bust factor with him as long as he's not making bad decisions. And Roethlisberger, I thought was solid last year. It's really the age that's the concern. I think his struggles last year are a bit overblown, I think, but it's also not like he was spectacular. I then have the great, however, tier, and these are guys that are great, but there is a however, and every single one of these guys you can say however, and it's not a massive however, but there is a however. So like Matt Ryan, great, however, past couple years haven't been as good. Makes me wonder if, is it Dirk Cutter, or is he actually starting to show signs of slowing down? Kirk Cousins, great, last year he was pretty consistently great. However, throughout the course of his career, he's really struggled with consistencies. Herbert and Burrow are great, however, they're young, and maybe that was just a flash in the pan, and he'll have a sophomore slump. Kyler Murray, great, however, he did struggle at some of that, over the middle stuff. And Baker Mayfield, great, however, he definitely has turned the ball over too much over the course of his career, although the however to that, however, is he didn't do it in the second half of last season, with the exception of one very bad turnover in the Kansas City Chiefs game that just happened to not come back to bite him. Then we have the awesome tier. These are guys that if they're your quarterback, you buy their jersey and you feel good about it, right? You don't have to sweat about, should I get this jersey? You can buy a Tannehill, Stafford, Prescott, or Carr jersey. There's not really a lot of negatives about any of these guys. You can maybe argue like Stafford's age could be a concern, but I wouldn't, to be honest. And, with all these guys, I would say there's not really a criticism you can levy against them. You can say that they're not as good as some of these other guys ahead of them at some stuff, which I would agree with, but there's not a lot of criticisms with them. We then have the elite tier. So this is Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. To me, these guys, and the two that I still have left off, are all guys I would easily say are elite. And I think that there's probably someone who disagrees with the Tom Brady take. They say he's too old or whatever, but I don't know. The guy threw 40 touchdowns last year. He's in the elite tier. I know that you can maybe pick out a couple of games where he didn't look elite, and I think that he wasn't the best in a couple of primetime games, so that kind of hurts things. But again, watch the Detroit Lions game. I know it was the Lions, and it's an easy competition, but he just completely shredded that team. Watch both of the Falcons games. Watch, basically every playoff game. I know he had that 3 straight interceptions in the Packers game that keeps getting brought up, but people forget how perfect he was in the first half of that game. So there's a ton he does well. I think that, I think it gets nitpicky with Brady. I'm not saying he was perfect, but he is elite in my opinion. Same thing with like Lamar Jackson. I think that a lot of the problems that get put against him are actually a problem of the offense as a whole and not Lamar Jackson. I think the reason why his team struggle in the playoffs is guys can't consistently get open. He really needs guys who can like beat man coverage with his receivers, and hopefully Bateman could be that guy. Maybe the only real criticism you could put against Allen is that we only saw it 1 year. Is there, luck? Will he regress? Potentially, but I've seen enough that I'm willing to put him in this tier. And Russell Wilson, I think everyone will agree, deserves to be in this tier. He's been elite for like at least 5 years. And finally, the MVP tier. This is the top tier. It's Mahomes and it's Rodgers. These are the guys who I say are like going to consistently be MVP candidates. You could argue that next year maybe Rodgers falls off a cliff because he's getting older. Maybe he goes to host Jeopardy or something, but the reality is I don't see that happening. He's still going to be an MVP candidate if he plays. Mahomes, of course, is as well. So, yeah, those are my tier rankings. I should have mentioned this before, but these are not in particular order. This is just the tiers in no particular order. So that's what I have them. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.